All right, today we're going to be talking about some mycology information, basically cloning samples of live mushroom onto agar. I'm going to discuss with you guys the materials you're going to need. Let's take a look at them. We're going to need some tissue paper, need some rubber gloves, an open flame, that's constant open flame, 70% isopropyl alcohol, disinfectant spray, some kind of cotton swabs, and a sterile blade with a metal holder. All right, we're also gonna need a sterile environment and something called an SAB over here, which is a still air box where we're gonna be doing the samples so we don't contaminate. And obviously you're gonna need a couple samples of mushroom. All right, so right now I'm just gonna pick some samples. When you're looking at a species of mushroom, you really wanna look at some characteristics that identify that species. For this one, it's like a cocoa shiitake mushroom, and you're looking for cracks, some nice defined cracks, and you're gonna know that this species usually has closed gills. They open very late. It's a really meaty, tasty one. So I'm gonna avoid stuff that doesn't look so good. This is a little too much. This one looks pretty good. It's the best guy so far. Now we always want to take 2 samples, and it's not going to be from the same mushroom to ensure that you have the best chances of good colonization. All right, well, next up we got some nice portobello mushrooms. It broke a little bit out of the way. Okay. Now, naturally the fungus is going to be dropping its spores from these gills over here, but we don't want to take the genetics from that. We're going to go on the base of the mushroom, closer to the mycelium. If we zoom in over here, we can actually see on either edge of these mycelial growth. That's that little white fuzzy stuff. We're gonna be splitting these down the middle and getting some samples. Our final sample for today is gonna be some nice oyster mushrooms. Picked these up today, and they actually look quite lovely. You can see how they grow in clusters here. You know, you want to pick one with some nice meaty pieces and also the freshest one. This, I like this. Now, there's 2 different ways of cloning. We can clone for one isolate, or we can clone for the bunch. So that being said, I'm probably gonna go here. What I'll do is I'll split into the general middle section of this cluster and take a piece of tissue from there. Sometimes you can split up. What we're ideally trying to get is the meat right there. I'm not going to take this because I just contaminated it, but we would just be slicing a piece from right here. And that's going to be all we need to start our new sample on the agar. So now what we gotta do is we're gonna set up something called laminar flow. Those things are expensive, and I don't have a lab in my house. So I'm gonna use something called an SAB, which is a still air box. It's a good technique. It works fairly well as long as you are sanitary and aseptic and have a good technique. So let's put the gloves on and get to it. Always wipe down the box. Isopropyl, it's already been sanitized, but it never hurts to always be extra sanitary. Spray the box from the outside. carefully pull back. I don't believe in cutting holes in the SAB, just pull it back on the edge. We'll use the box for other things. I always like to put a little bit of alcohol in the box to keep it extra sanitary. And now we're ready to start selecting and cultivating the mushrooms. So let's grab the agar. So now we gotta prep our other supplies. We need our sterile scalpel, has to always remain sterile. Flame, our samples, which don't matter. Those don't really need to be sterile, the samples, because we're gonna cut through into the middle, which is naturally sterile itself. All right, so we got our oysters here, we got our portobellos, and we're gonna do our wrinkled shiitakes. Okay, now we know what they are. Let's sanitize again. Going for the stem, the base. That's got the best tissue. Wow, look at this split. This is a beautiful split. I think the best all day. Let me go from that side. This looks very nice. Remember, you don't need a lot. Now we're going to go for the second specimen. All right, so here with the final mushroom species that we're going to be working with, we want to pick a nice sample. As I told you, with this specific batch, since it is a cluster mushroom, I definitely want to get some genetics from the base of the cluster and from the biggest specimen. So those are the two different kinds I'm going to get. I'm going to get cluster genetics and one of the larger specimen genetics. And I'm gonna have to go for the cluster originally closest to this guy. I don't want to do it, but I gotta destroy some of this to get there. you want to go, when you're looking for that cluster genetic, you want to go for the biggest section, which is literally going to be right here. I'm going to split these two guys right down the middle, go about a ½ inch in, and take my sample from there for the cluster. And for the individual, like I said, I'm just going to go, you know, somewhere on like the stalk, this area here. Put it in your container labeled group. Beautiful. Ready to go. Like I said, now these oyster mushrooms are interesting. They actually don't have gill. The gills are here. The entire underside is the gill, as opposed to like the umbrella looking mushroom with gills that everybody's accustomed to. I find that pretty cool about this species. And so yeah, look, we're gonna get a nice specimen from inside here. So like I said, again, we're gonna cut it, split it centrally. All right.